Welcome to Definitely Maybe Agile, the podcast where Peter Madison and David Sherrock discuss the complexities of adopting new ways of working at scale. Hello, everybody. So here we are again, and I'm here with Dave and David. I guess I'll go by Dave and David just so this does not get confusing for anybody in the audience. And so welcome, David. Would you like to introduce yourself a little?
My name is David Kilzer, as was pointed out. I'm a founding principal in a firm called Strategic Transformation Advisors. That rather pretentious title is built on 50 years, really half century of putting automation in manufacturing and distribution at clients around the world. At heart, you'll find that I'm a North Dakota farm boy who got his hands dirty early and fell in love with automation at that point in time. Did the engineering route and added an MBA at IU and got put to work doing automation by General Electric Company. And I've stuck in that for the last half century. Great deal of fun, great deal of change.
As you're describing that, David, I just can't help thinking, how things have changed, right? Because we talk right now a lot about AI and we talk about the different eras of AI and that top of mind for a long time, then disappears back again and disappears. But it feels right now as if everything is about AI, and yet you're describing 50 years of working, and I was going to say AI and automation. I think part of our conversation will be how AI and automation kind of play together and what the kind of connection is. But what have you seen over that period of time? What's automation? What did it mean some time ago, and how has that meaning changed?
The thing that strikes me when I look back over that has been inflection points when you see two different technologies come together. And I got to remember that I began automating things when relay logic was done with relays. So it stretches back a little bit, and I saw the arrival of programmable logic controllers, and I can think of some convergences. Like in the 80s, I was working with a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, and in the middle of that discussion, I got involved with a protocol called TCP/IP, and then along came another protocol called packet switching. And so I recognize both protocols, both technologies, very powerful, but I didn't have a good picture of what their child would be. They birthed the internet. So I've seen the power of technology convergences. There's another one, when GPS got together with mobile communications and gave us the smartphone, changed the world. And now when I look at the changes that are indelibly printed into our future, I don't know how that works, but it's almost a certainty in my mind that we're going to see a similar impact from the convergence of AI and humanoid robotics. In fact, in a recent TED Talk, I had maybe a bit hyperbolic, but I described that for humankind as the biggest thing since fire. It's going to be that transformative, that powerful in terms of how it reshapes our future. And when I think about the transition from here to there, I think about all of the alternative paths that could be followed, and how do individuals, how do professionals, how do companies, how do nation states pick their way through to finding the correct optimum path for themselves and their constituents. That's what we're working on right now with our client base, trying to see a way forward in this very hugely impactful technology being adopted and adapted, in my experience, and I've got a few years in it, at an unprecedented pace.
It's definitely going very fast.
Yeah, trying to project into the future. That future is a week away to some of these momentous changes. So I mean, it is frightening, but it is so much fun. It is exhilarating every day to wake up and read, listen, interact with experts like yourselves, and try to pull from common knowledge base a clearer picture of where we're headed and what's coming our way, and how can we help our clients prepare for these kind of changes. Every day is an adventure. Every day has got something new. I can't imagine a more exciting time to be involved with technology than what we're having the privilege to live in today.
As you're describing that, because there are areas where it's so disruptive that, as exciting as it is, it obviously has consequences. And Peter knows this well, but I've got 3 kids who've just graduated university. And one of the things that many parents, many people with children getting to that university age are worrying about or thinking about is, what should they get a degree? And if they get a degree, what degree should they get? Now, you've described a very exciting place with lots of change going on, which is great when we're surfing the wave. But if you're trying to get out there to try and just begin getting on your first surfboard, if I use that metaphor for a little bit, what is the topic that people should be looking at? Where is the place to kind of build some expertise and knowledge?
That's a great question. I'm a generation ahead of you. I've got grandchildren that are now just becoming collegiate age.
So you've gone through this twice.
And of course, it comes up in a conversation, where might they best spend their time? And, that's an individual question that has an individual answer. So there's no way to really, answer it for everyone or every listener. The thing that I encourage them is to, one, stay optimistic, stay connected. One of the real dangers of AI is isolation. So, stay connected to the world, stay grounded, and be open to change. Don't listen to anyone's, including, the small voice in your head, trying to pigeonhole you into an area. Don't, no matter how well the argument is put forward, don't rely and become, enamored of an idea just because of the confident way that it's presented. Good analogy is the hallucinations that we've all seen coming out of AI. They are clearly incorrect many times, but presented with the utmost conviction and articulate statement. So, I mean, that is a good, I think, I don't know if a metaphor, but a good image that people should form in their heads when they look to the future and take that little bit of grain of salt with just about everything they hear.
Well, they do sort of say it's like you should believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Though I think these days, I think that might be none of what you see or hear would be probably a better way of describing it.
Yeah, mentally test actively every proposition that's made, and with a good deal of skepticism, but trust your powers of reasoning, and grow yourself in the area where the AI is least likely to protrude, and that's in the area of invention, innovation, to try to picture and see the heretofore unseen. AI, as we currently know its instantiation, is really good at looking at history and making projections. It is not good at discontinuous developments, even though it is of itself quite discontinuous in terms of our, what the life of the world. It is not inventive. That imagination of humankind sets us apart in many ways, sets us in front of AI, and we have to use that ability to see the unseen to help shape and guide how that AI tool is going to be applied and how it will ultimately, be used to benefit people, society, ourselves professionally, the firms we work within. It's up to us to shape it, and that active imagination that people carry with them is the primary tool in maintaining that the controlling position in that tug of war between AI and humans.
Before Peter jumps in, I can just see him just about to ask a question. I just wanted to, there is a shift between, or at least let me put this a different way. Automation and AI are 2 different things, and they're solving different kinds of problems. You mentioned the experience you've had with automation, and robotics comes into it and so on. But what I'm trying to understand, especially for our listeners, but for myself as well, is What problems is automation incredible for? What problems is AI incredible for? And what are the ones where you need, where there's either overlap or a natural replacement of one with the other?
Automation has been very powerful in the area of repetitive tasks. You can train a machine to do something. It can do it much more reliably, more rapidly, with more power than the human, alternative that it replaced, even the tool augmented human. So, that has been a great tool to improve productivity in a number of my clients over the year, whether it's handling parts on and off a punch press, sorting apparel in a distribution center, building boxes for rapid shipping for e-commerce. All those elements, repetitive nature, at least with a confined set of limits, very positive results with the application of automation. Where humankind is fed into that is the area of ambiguity in being able to discern different set of inputs that are outside of the immediate reach of the automation. So that's been automation. Or AI has been proved itself extremely powerful, is aggregating and distilling vast amount of information, coming up with a good projection in terms of how they would extend that past into the future quite accurately. It is not something that I would ever recommend being followed without a good deal of scrutiny, as we know that AI draws much of its information from the internet. The internet is fraught with a lot of different varying degrees of truth. And so if that's what it's drawing upon, then you have to have that same level of skepticism about the projections it's being made from that. The combination of the two, the attributes of a machine being, strong, fast, rigid, repeatable, etc., in a mechanically transforming environment, whether it's manufacturing or distribution, with the AI systems that can increasingly perceive the surroundings and make reasoned decisions from that, and project what the optimum reaction to or outcome that should be shaped from that data. I mean, that's what is becoming transformative. It's adding those two capabilities together gets you this broad world of impact areas where humans and AI equipped enabled robotics, expanding the space of our collaboration between the world of humans and AI equipped machines, AI enabled machines. So, that to me is tremendously exciting. It's leveraging and expanding on human potential. It's collaborating in not replacing, but it requires the human to direct instead of do, which is a different set of skill sets for humans in many ways. But it's one that I think that's going to be a primary skill for successful people in the future is understanding what the machines can do, what they can't do, or is better done by themselves as a human agent, and using that to direct the machines and leverage their output, leverage what they can produce, what they can contribute. And that should be fun. I mean, at least it's invigorating to me every day when I wake up. I just can't wait to get in here and start tackling client problems, looking into that multifaceted future full of mirrors, trying to discern the optimum path through that, and then help my clients select a path that optimizes their success.
Have you seen much of people? I agree with you. You've got deterministic processes where we know that if we need to do the same thing in exactly the same way every single time, then building a system that's deterministic, something like in manufacturing, something that's going to do the same thing again and again and again, applying a non-deterministic system like an AI model into that potentially has disruptive effects that may not be beneficial if if our goal is consistency.
Yeah.
So have you seen any ways of helping people understand why not to apply AI to a problem, or how to think about the counter argument where they're saying, "Oh, we got to slap this AI on everything." That happens a lot in the digital space. It's like everything's got to have AI in it. We use it for everything, and it's like, well, actually, some of these things that you're doing are best off just solved by straight up automation. It's like we know how to do this. We know how to do it well. There isn't really a need to introduce complexity into that for a solved problem, especially as it's more likely to disrupt than enhance.
That's some great points there. There's great points there, Peter. I think we don't have to look too far into the recent past to see, what are the problems that you can create when you misapply technology. And one of the great productive organizations in modern retail history is a company called Walmart. In the 2015s thereabouts, and later they did a hugely productive job of doing RPA, robotic process automation, for unleashing a plethora of bots inside of their company to help them become more efficient. But that became a real impediment during the period of unprecedented, unanticipated disruption. The COVID years, and they had to back off from that automation because they found that there limits to that automation, the hysteresis loop that it operates within, was not large enough to react to the scale of unprecedented change that COVID brought. Yet their competitors, because they still had a lot of humans involved in those decision loops, were able to react. And the retailers live and die on in stock, without being overstocked. So, and they found that they were overstock and out of stock because of the scale of the change was too rapid for the automation, that the humans were much more adaptable at working within that unprecedented, I think that's a critical word there, the set of circumstances. Again, AI is great looking back at histories and drawing, very accurate, rapid extrapolations. But when something is truly unprecedented, there's nothing in history that can provide AI that guidance. Yet humans were able to do that and do it much more effectively. So I'm not sure if I wandered off the point that you'd asked your questions, Peter, but if I haven't covered that, give me some guidance back to those points.
Yeah, I was thinking you do raise a very good point there, and Walmart in particular is an interesting one because as a retail operation, they are quite different to most other retail operations due to the sort of centralized distribution networks that they encompass, and the way that those operate are somewhat different. So you can see where they sort of pride themselves on information as the kind of driver for their systems, which is something that has enabled them to grow to the size that they are.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that application of technology where it isn't necessarily needed just yet is an interesting one, or where we don't necessarily have the right fallback plans should it not be the right thing at this moment in time, which can be an interesting problem. I do wonder, we may see some failures in the market due to, hey, we've generated tons more code than we've ever generated before, and we pushed it out into all these critical systems, and we can wonder what that's going to do in 2026. But anyway,
some early returns on that is, raise some frightening specters. Some of this machine created code is proven to be a lot less robust than what was apparent. Again, the AI is great at putting a happy face in a very confident visage to its projections, but it's not holding up in the real world.
Well, there's a learning curve, right? So this is even when implementing automation systems or some form of large language model that's learning to do something like coding.
Yeah.
There's that experience curve that you have to go through. There is just no way of getting to the top of it without all of the learning cycles beforehand. And of course, as anybody who's built product knows and pushed product live and then had their customers come in and test their product for various reasons, this is not necessarily pain-free when you.
Yeah, I mean, listening to the customer, the voice of the customer, and and sometimes it's drowned out by all of the hoopla over the emerging technologies.
Sure.
The customer's needs really still got to dictate. The companies that I work with are the ones that the service is the central strength in the company that's been most successful. But the thing that I'm seeing right now is the coming change is unprecedented, but it's not unanticipated. We can see the shapes of what I believe the future will bring us. I think there's certainly dystopian valleys that we will cross from here to there. But I am very optimistic about the future. And one of the things that really raises the optimism is this arrival of the AI-enabled robot taking over the drudgery, the dirty, the dangerous, and freeing humans to do what we do best. That change is going to hit a lot of different industry segments differently. One of the areas where it's going to be most impactful is in the area of the traditional automation. It's going to redefine what is the successful application of automation. And companies that, if we take a look at automation suppliers today and say, oh, they're going to be in a very envious spot because of the coming automation. If we say that without really thinking about that automation is going to replace their historical strengths in automation, it will reshape it. That gives us a little bit of humility to look to the next step, that the experts in automation, may be the most threatened by this next version of automation. Hard automation that I've used for years in terms of SCARA robots that are grabbing parts and moving parts. One of the pictures that we can all shape in our heads is the robots in an automated manufacturing facility that are waving around the wands and sparks are flying wherever they get there. When you think what it takes to make that happen, all the fixturing, all the precise movements, everything else to move that big work product like that frame of the car to the exact position so that robot can reach out in 3D space and with millimeter accuracy, put that spot welder in there or drive that SPR through those dissimilar metals, And then we say, in the next generation, with AI-enabled humanoid robots being able to take over many of those tasks that traditional SCARA robot had, all of the other supporting automation and precision is not so critical. That the vision systems that are common in those the new scale of robots, is going to be able to compensate for small deviations and still yield the millimeter accuracy. And so the net cost or net investment in that automation is going to go way down. And then when you want to make a change, your ability to make a change is dramatically improved. Rather than running a mold or a fixture back through a machining center to make those tweaks in it, it'll be done within software. Then maybe AI-enabled changes that even take it much out of the human loop. And so the flexibility, adaptability, the agility of those firms are going to be immensely enhanced. I worked a lot with the automotive companies in the 80s and 90s, and an engineering change order, a frightening prospect of an engineering change order, would take months, sometimes many months, to make a very small change in manufacturing. In the recent past, I had the privilege of work with a tier one supplier to a large EV manufacturer. So working with a tier one supplier, I was shocked, absolutely astounded at the rate of engineering change orders that they had to adapt to. They had to find a way to implement. I mean, what took 6 months, in the 80s and 90s was done in a weekend, is being done in a weekend today. So that reactiveness capability to rapidly implement change is one of the key attributes that are going to be brought by this version of AI-equipped humanoids. And so when working with clients today, we can't tell them to shut down, don't make changes, wait for this new technology. You can't do that. But what you can do is look at every process decision, every piece of automation that'll be put in place, and question, is that ready? Is that adaptable to what we now see? We see these vague outlines that are coming clearer by the day, but is their current planned investments adaptable to that next generation of automation? Are they going to, buy a $400,000 scare robot that is outdated in a year, or it doesn't pay back for 3? And that's just in operating cost benefits. If you add in the flexibility, the ability to add change to the products and product mixes, we're talking about now, because you're affecting the revenue side of a company's equation, not the cost side.
Yeah.
And we all know that addressing revenue expansion is immensely more powerful for helping a company grow and succeed than taking a few percentages out of the cost structure.
Yeah, the operational effectiveness that you now suddenly get, the adaptability of the organization to be able to say, okay, well, now I need to make these change orders. I need to be able to change my system. Suddenly becomes much easier to do that because you've got much more visibility into the system now, which is something that Dave and I have talked about previously as well.
Yeah,
the guest.
So you gotta ask the client when they're making an investment, did they consider only capital equipment suppliers that could provide them a digital twin? That might well be a great make or break point when you're looking at different automation suppliers at different automation types. Do they comply with I can't think of the names right now, the modeling for robot environments? Do they have and most critically, do they have an open API? Hopefully a REST API, ideally a RESTful API. So adding those criteria into their evaluation, just beyond the feeds and speeds and rates, but the further characterizing those investments along those dimensions, which will rapidly enable their ability to adapt this new technology as it becomes available and take advantage of all the benefits, which is agility and speed. I think needs to be considered today.
I mean, as you're describing this really sort of powerful shift from the investment in difficult to change, very tightly constrained, but also immobile in many ways, these automation systems, to humanoid robots sort of walking around the factory and making changes is the way I picture it as you're describing it. But you started the conversation, we've all been seeing this as well, of the hallucinations that come in when we start interacting with AI models. So what about the safety side? At some point, those automation systems, if we're now going to move to humanoid robots with an AI instruction set, that comes in, what happens around the safety? What are the conversations there, or what are the things that you're seeing happening around safety?
Yeah, I mean that's a really, probably one of the most critical words in there, because one of the words I used earlier was collaborative, which means by definition you've got humans in reach of robots, and so robots can move very fast and very forcefully, and maybe not coexist that well with the human in that work path. So there's a variety of different safety systems. So that at one level there is the dystopian future that's painted by some of the people in terms of AI systems taking over the world. So there's an ethics and there's control at that level, and there's also the physical safety controls, and that is a really a Great question, because that's highly perceptive. I mean, in terms of the investments that need to be made today. Right now, historically, we protected humans from robots through the use of fences and physical barriers. That's not going to be what's wanted in the future. You're going to want flexible open workspaces with the minimum of barriers to take full advantage of this new range of automation. So in that case, how do you protect people? So I was out to a robot manufacturer's location in Michigan a short time ago, and they're taking a lot of their very large, powerful robots and encasing them with a sensing material that turns this rapidly moving arm into a cobot capability where it senses and can go into essentially an e-stop mode if something unanticipated is sensed. A lot of work being done with perception systems, just like there are cameras trained by AI on robots. There will be cameras that are, safety arbiters that are not tied to a machine, but are looking into a space, the space where humans and process equipment could create physically dangerous situations. And getting from here to the other side of which has to be the incredibly safe environments. We have to, I think, in the interim, bridge with hybridized systems. We don't want to trust AI. We don't want to entrust those vision systems until they have the, I don't know, billions and billions of miles that we see now in the EV space that are giving the confidence, that are years and years later and then projected, proving how difficult a task that is. So then, I would see some sort of a hybrid system for the near and intermediate term, indeterminate term, until we're proven beyond any doubt that the replacing system is safer than the existing systems, which is difficult to envision since a lot of those existing systems are physical separation. So.
Yeah, there's a lot more layers of complexity there to handle, because if there's separation is one thing, that's very different when you're sharing the same space.
I think on that, I think we're getting to the near end of our time today, which is, because that's probably a whole other conversation, because I'd love to go dig into that a little bit more as well, because some of my background in resilience and disaster recovery and stuff is somewhat intrigued by some of the spaces we could go into that. But since we're at time for today, we always wrap these sessions up with 3 points for our audience. And since there's 3 of us, we each get one. And so, David, if you'd like to go first, what point would you like our audience to take away today?
I mean, what I hope they take away is a bit of caution and a large dose of optimism. Participate in the change, and don't be overrun by the change. Stay optimistic, stay ahead of it, and enjoy life.
That's a good message, regardless.
I was just going to say we should end right there.
Yeah, we've got to follow that up. Oh, jeez. Okay, Dave, your turn.
Okay, let me see. So I was really the story you told about Walmart and the impact of moving outside of the sort of zone within the tolerance of what the expectations were for the automation really resonated or struck me as something that we wouldn't necessarily think to look to, but brings in the whole idea of fragility into automation, which is not what we think of. We think of automation, as we've been discussing, as this sort of expansion into anything, we can really navigate any number of different problem spaces, but there are actually, I think, very clear boundaries within that within which the automation works really well. And therefore there are other spaces, unprecedented spaces, which are more likely to happen. if we think of black swan, that we have to kind of take into account. So that one is just churning a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of more exploration for me to take away and look into. So thanks for that sort of thought bomb.
So now I gotta have one more point, which has got to be has it got to be better than the everyone have fun? Enjoy it. Well, thanks very much for the conversation, David. I really enjoyed it. I think one of the pieces that I thought was good was your when you were talking about the automation and the shift from the automation companies that we have today to the sort of when you got a more flexible, programmable robot that can do many different tasks. As a consequence of that, it becomes something that can adjust to the tolerances, which gives you the ability to be much more flexible. You don't need these precision and accuracy machines as much if you can have something that can adjust to the circumstances that it's in. I'd be interested to see what that does on a production line that's looking for that accuracy and see how that ends up resulting in the precision that you need. But I thought it was a very interesting concept, especially because of the sort of the price point that people are looking to aim by sort of commoditizing the production of these robots. So we have lots of robots which are of similar types, so we can manufacture many of them, much as we do with cars, and we're going to turn those into machines which become much more flexible and adaptable to the surrounding environments. I think that's a very interesting space to explore. Awesome. With that, I'm going to wrap up for today, and thank you both for joining us, and thank you, David, for all your insights. And until next time.
David, thank you very much. That was a great conversation.
Thanks, guys. I think the mental playback says sounds like an academic instead of the greasy fingered farm boy that likes machines and automation. I think
we can let our audience take that one.
You've been listening to Definitely Maybe Agile, the podcast where your hosts Peter Madison and David Sharrock focus on the art and science of digital, agile, and DevOps at scale.